we're live. So today I'm with Shawn Whitehead. He's a musician, composer, producer, and CEO of Shawn Whitehead Studios. Welcome, Shawn. Please try to fill in the gaps. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, I appreciate you um, giving me this opportunity. My name is Shawn Whitehead, like you heard. I am a composer, producer from New York City. I grew up in Texas and been playing all my life from the time I was 5 years old. I went to Amarillo Community College and then I moved to New York City, where I spent almost 8 years as a classical pianist, composer, producer, and just moved around the United States, sharing my love for music as film scores and electronic music and everything like that, you know.
Cool. Cool. Just living the dream, huh?
I'm living the dream. I'm really loving it.
Cool. Cool. So, yeah, the reason I wanted to talk to you today is just I think that we've had some conversations before, and we are both excited about music. It's something in both of our lives, and I think that just having conversations about the industry in which both of us love, I am hoping that we can kind of make it better, like kind of mold, take the reins and try to mold the industry, to what, we think is going to best represent music, and, because it's something that we love.
Absolutely.
Sure. So I've got a few questions here, and we'll start it off easy here. I don't know. Maybe it's not easy. So, in your opinion, what makes an artist good or a musician?
Well, in my opinion, I think an artist, what makes them good is putting in the time and the effort and actually learning how to be an artist, learning the craft, learning the ins and outs of what to do, what not to do. There's a lot of area that people see and perceive as this is the normal, this is the what should be directly associated with an artist. But, going out against the normal, I think that's what makes an artist good, because there's too many mainstream artists nowadays that has, as far as music, rap, however you take it, it's just the one, the two, the one, the two. There's a formula that artists see and artists try to go by. But to me, an artist is somebody who goes against that.
Sure. Just so the way that I think of it, and I think it, kind of goes along the same path as what you're saying, is that kind of like being genuine in your craft. If somebody does music or makes music for strictly to try to make it a profit or a cash cow, or to try to strike to popularity specifically, instead of doing something that's genuine, where it's like you're not trying to sell somebody something. A salesman isn't
Right.
a genuine person. Like, that should be understood, I guess. But the point being is like, if you do music for that, whatever it may be, the emotional gratification, or some fulfillment within yourself, and then other people can see that, you're already achieving that. You're actually making that achievement of making it popular, essentially. I mean, like John Prine, for example. I mean, maybe not everybody's cup of tea as far as like that type of artist, but he always made music in which a lot of people could associate themselves with.
Right. Right. And that's the funny thing about the whole thing is that, back in the day, back in the 70s and 80s, people made music, they made it on how they felt. They made it on their life experiences. Nowadays, a lot of the music that you hear is, oh, I want to shoot this person up, I want to beat this person up, blah, 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 blah. And people are liking that more than actually listening to the lyrics. And I hate to say that, 90% of musicians these days and artists and rappers and things like that, the reason I use a lot of rap quotes is because, coming from Harlem, I hear a lot of musicians and things like that talking about killing and beating and this and that, but they've never experienced that. They really haven't. They really haven't.
Yeah.
And, I hate that. It's that, true musicians and artists who have spent their whole life trying to perfect their craft have been demonetized and desensitized and looked under and against because it's not the biggest, baddest beat in the world, because it's not portraying what the media says it is nowadays,
Yeah, and for me personally, and this is just strictly for live, like if I go to a live event, so like produced stuff, I even use, production software to make drums or like bass or whatever in an electronic sense. But the thing that kind of I get a little burnt out on personally as a consumer of music, like when I go to Lollapalooza, for example, is when somebody is up on stage and they're using essentially like a pre-canned loop, and it's like, I don't know, it just kind of takes me away from the want to go see them, because it's like, well, why would I go see you when I can go just down the way and see Head and the Heart, and they actually all use legitimate instruments, And I'm just saying, that's just my personal opinion. I get that people maybe don't care about that, but for me, if I'm paying top dollar for a live show, I want to see somebody actually do something, in front of me. That's just showmanship and, trying to make it entertaining, which I think is another part of music too.
Exactly. And the funny thing is that, I had a friend of mine say the exact same thing a few years ago. They were like, if I wanted to, it was actually my professor in college. He was like, if I wanted to go hear the exact same album in a live concert, I would have bought the album. Why do I want to hear canned music and a song exactly the way I heard it on the record instead of something original?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the nice thing about live, is that you can add in all of these various additions and interactions for the crowd too,
Yes.
And I try my hardest sometimes when I'm thinking about, what, some music I write for specifically to be on a track, and I don't really intend, unless I get like a 5-piece band at some point, I just shit that out someday. But if that ends up happening, then maybe it'll be different. But for myself, being a solo artist, some songs are just not going to be played live for me. And there are other songs though, and I'm like, hey, this one's definitely going to be live. I'm going to try to make it certainly like a good track recorded, but the main thing that I'm going for there is that when I go out and there's butts in the seats, or there's people standing and watching me, there's something they can do beyond just sip their beer and watch me. There's something that interacts, makes it so that they want to come see my show, versus that person that, let's be honest, I mean, they might be talented, and that's definitely a certain side of the industry that people like to see. But ultimately, when people just go out to a bar, some of them having a musical thought in their heads, and other people that would never even think about picking up an instrument, you can get all of them work kind of into this experience, and there's something that's powerful about that.
Right. And I that's what I love about watching YouTube videos of either I did a cover of a gentleman, Stevie Wonder. He on his live performances never did the same set the same way.
Yeah.
And I try to do the same thing with my live performances because, why does somebody want to see or hear the same thing twice the same way? If so, make an album and, they can listen to it nonstop.
Right.
But, they want to hear the diversity. And that's what I think what makes a good artist is that if you can be able to take one song that you made in the studio and just do different variations on your live sets, that to me is like a true artist, is
Sure.
that they can just go off the top of their head and still sound amazing.
Well, one artist that I showed my son this past time that he came over, and so I have him learning ukulele right now because he's always had kind of like a little bit smaller hands, and it's difficult for him to press down guitar strings. So I'm starting him off on the uke and then hopefully stepping him up to the guitar. But
Right.
I was trying to show him the example of, music can be just about anything, but the main component to having a good show, and I think if you don't have this, it's going to be really hard to have a successful show, is you need to be the most comfortable person in the room. Because if you're not, then it's going to be a hard time, dude. Like,
I completely understand.
but the artist that I was going to mention is I showed him Reggie Watts.
Oh, I love Reggie
Yeah,
White.
Reggie is freaking amazing. But the thing that he does the best of any artist I've seen before is he is always the most comfortable guy in the room.
Yes. I've watched a lot of Reggie Watts, not just through the Roots and not just through Jimmy or what's his name?
Jimmy Fallon?
Yes, Jimmy Fallon. But I have also watched his solo videos where he did a lot of beatboxing and did a lot of product review, and he killed it.
Yeah. Have you ever seen him on, what was it called? Comedy Bang Bang?
No.
Dude, that, I'll say it's definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but he is regularly good on that. Like, I literally have watched Comedy Bang Bang just to see Reggie Watts. Like, the other guy, he's talented and he's funny, and don't get me wrong, but I was there for Reggie. Like, Reggie, I love you.
I love his beatboxing, and because of Reggie Watts, I actually want to get a piece of device that actually is a looper because of how he beatboxed and turned just his voice into a complete song. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. I think that the very first robot that goes out into the world should be programmed to just act like Reggie Watts. Like, it'll have all of those devices within it. It'll just already have it in there, and he'll just make loops and dance, and then also speak in various other accents while
Yes.
Dude, that is the first robot we need. We need this robot. But not to take Reggie Watts' job away, just because then we would have two Reggie Watts. I mean, the more Reggie Watts we have, the better.
Exactly.
So, another question here. So, art, as you know, can be many things, and we've talked a little bit about this already, but it can be a creative expression intent on evoking emotion just as easily as it can be an expression of technical prowess. So, in your opinion, where does your art or your music fall on this spectrum, in your opinion?
Well, as a classically trained pianist. I have learned that art is very, very broad.
Yeah.
When I moved to New York City, I had to take the humble pill because when coming from a small town, thinking that, okay, I came from a great, school, college, and I moved to New York and I was going to be my idea of famous and things like that. I learned the hard way that that's not always the thing that happened. I learned from some of the most amazing gospel musicians and things like that you don't have to go to school, you don't have to do this. You can be the best amazing musician through studies, whether you go to school or not, YouTube, whatever. Now, when I moved to New York, I learned that some of my experience came from other musicians through technicalities of a jazz point of view.
Okay.
And when I came from a classical background, it became a real game changer for me because they helped me learn jazz and I helped them learn classical.
Okay.
Now, when we both worked together, it kind of helped me learn how that spectrum fell as far as broadening my horizons in the type of music I made.
Sure.
Because with the technicalities of the classical part, but the expression of the jazz and just the freedom of whatever you play is from your soul, your mind, your heart. It really gave me a one-up on a lot of the musicians in New York.
Sure.
Because people hadn't seen somebody who had that technicality of a classical pianist and the soulfulness of a jazz pianist.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And so that really made me in the forefront of, hey, we really like what we hear. We want to see more of it, or we would like to hire you, or we want to hear you more, or things like that. Because just because people have technicalities of a musician doesn't mean that they have the soulfulness and the natural talent of a musician.
Right.
Because you could study your whole life and go strictly by the books, and people who have had no training could surpass you instantly.
Yep.
Because it's all soulful. It's all from the heart,
Sure. So like one guitarist that I like quite a bit, I don't honestly know if he's still alive, but I've seen a lot of his older work in like the 60s and that, but Wes Montgomery, he is phenomenal on guitar, plays jazz guitar, and it's interesting because like in today's day and age, he might be a little bit dismissed, or maybe not completely dismissed, but he might be kind of scoffed at a little bit in certain internet circles because all he uses is his thumb the whole time, and that's it to play the guitar. Like he's doing complicated, jazz leads and transitions and everything that a normal any jazz guitarist would normally do, but he's just only ever using his thumb. So,
oh wow,
it's just interesting because like it's quite obvious that while a lot of people would say, "Oh man, just go learn some finger picking there, dude," or whatever. In his mind, probably it's like, well, uh, I made it pretty well to the fucking top and figured it out my way. So why do you
Right.
care? I mean, he is soulful and is actually, phenomenally good. I would recommend. I might have to send you a few videos that I particularly like, but it's just for the way that he weaves in and out of the feel of, and but then adds that extra little bit in his soloing
Right.
is magical. Like there's a magical feel to it. It's not melt your face off or anything, but it's really good. It's special.
That would be awesome. I'd love to hear that.
Sure.
Um, like you said, it isn't always about what you learn as technicality, but if you learned it one way and it works for you, you know,
Yeah.
what's wrong with that?
Well, it's like this past year, I decided to mainly just to see if it would improve, and it did. I mean, but I'm saying like the main reason I even tried to do like the 5 finger style picking, and I only really ever use it on the one song that I occasionally do, green sleeves or whatever, kind of a classical piece. So I learned it essentially with that, and then kind of just kept using that piece as kind of practice for the 5 finger method. And beyond that, I kind of realized, for classical guitar, it probably would work great, but I have just way better dexterity with these 3 fingers. And I
Right.
can do so much more with these. I mean, I'm still pretty good with my ring finger, but with the pinky, I just feel like it's one of those fingers like, yeah, I can use that. It's not like a piano necessarily where you have to definitely use every single finger on both hands if you want to be worth a shit. But I just feel like the pinky, it almost just kind of inhibits me rather than doing some sort of a trick with these 4 fingers. My thumb and my 3 on this side. So I honestly, after learning the 5 finger method, I'm like, that just doesn't work for me. It probably works for some people, and I'm sure well, who knows? This is maybe a delusion of grandeur, but 100 years from now, maybe some American up and coming artist stumbles upon a Jason Bergmeyer video where I'm not using the 5 finger method on everything that I play, and he's just so like, man, what a fucking amateur.
I, I doubt that. I doubt that.
uh,
That's great.
oh man.
I was only using 3 fingers.
Ew.
Of course, I've seen people who have been a concert pianist and have been playing piano for years that only, even like through nature or freak accidents, have only 4 fingers, or 3 fingers, and they play classical music better than I do. And I've been
Yeah.
studying my whole life. I'm like, okay.
What's your excuse, Sean? What's your excuse?
I need to chop off a finger here. Hold on.
Need some motivation, huh?
Right.
It's like that meme of that bicyclist getting chased by a bear.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Shifting gears a little bit. So, I guess. So, what artists have had the most influence in how you approach your work?
The top 3 most influential people who have influenced my music on how I approach my composing and things like that. Number 1, I grew up playing ragtime piano.
Cool.
So the top person would have to be Scott Joplin. If you don't know who Scott Joplin is, he's a ragtime composer who, did. he did a lot of ragtime music.
Yeah.
So, he was the biggest influence on me growing up as a kid. And then once I got out of college, Beethoven, Bach, Chopin, Stravinsky, Strauss, a lot of the classical composers
Mm-hmm.
were a big influence as far as classical piano goes. And when I moved to New York, I used to watch a lot of movies. Like every other weekend, I used to go see a movie. And the funny thing is, I don't remember what the movie was about. But I remember, honestly, you could tell me, hey, yeah, I went to go see this movie. What was it about? I don't know. But I remember the music.
Yeah.
And that was the other big influence was like uh, Hans Zimmer, what's his name? James Horner, the guy who wrote the film score for a lot of the 90s movies like Jurassic Park.
John Williams.
Yes, John. I don't know why I didn't remember him. But yeah, those are some of my biggest influences in how I approach my music, because after studying classical piano, listened to a lot of classical music through my semi-adult years, teenager years, and then when I became a classical pianist, I wanted to get that modern feel to that classical style. And so I wanted to use a lot of their influences and styles in making the type of music I make. And
Yeah.
even to this day, I could sit here and listen to a film score by Hans Zimmer or John Williams or anybody like that, and just sit there and go, ooh, I just came up with a new song because of their influences of how they do their music.
Yeah, there's a guy that I watch on YouTube. His name's Lucas Brar, and he had a video about that where he said all you have to do to write a catchy pop song is essentially steal from some classical composer, and he went over and he took like legit. I mean, he's a fully classical, just a virtuoso on classical guitar. And
Right.
anyhow, he took these classical pieces and played them, and then he played and sang the pop variant or whatever, and how it essentially is using the same thing.
I'm
But
telling you, it's crazy how much of a not just a impact in your ears, but it's funny how the music that is made actually makes you feel a certain way.
yeah,
And that's my goal and vision with my music and things like that, is to create music that nobody has heard, and even if they did, it would make them think differently, act differently, feel differently, in
yeah,
a way that would help not just them but the world. And
sure,
I just fell in love with just the strings and the horns and just the style of music of classical and orchestral and epic film music. And that's kind of what drove me to shift gears from just being a straight pianist to being behind the scenes and not perform all the time, but actually compose music that could impact people in a generation and things like that. That's my goal.
sure. That's cool. So, moving to the next question here. So, does society, in its structure, adequately appreciate artists?
I, that's a hard question, because I think they used to.
Yeah,
Society, um, they liked artists, and they, you know, had the most influence approach, and they appreciated them back in the day. And kind of like there's a further question down, but I think artists these days are looking for a quick buck. Artists these days are not, you know,
They ain't Lightning Hopkins.
they're
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm telling you, these artists aren't appreciated like they used to be. You know, like Stevie Wonder,
yeah,
Jess Humphrey, Beethoven, Bach,
yeah,
you know, Jerry Lee Lewis, and even hip hop artists like Biggie, you know, Run DMC. You know, back in the day when artists actually meant something and had something to say because it was relevant and it was actually true,
yeah,
they respected them, appreciated what they had to say because they changed the way culture was, and they changed, I wouldn't say laws, but some artists influenced so many people.
sure.
And nowadays it's all about, you know, how many hoes can you screw and how many guys can you kill and blah 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 blah. And you know, it's all about the music. It's all about the beat. If the beat's good, nobody gives a crap. You know, I I don't get it. I really don't. And it's sad that artists aren't appreciated for who they are. And I some people are just because of their name, and some people are just because, you know, oh, I got 1,000, 1,000,000 views in 2 seconds. And now it's like, you know, I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm still trying to make it because people who stole other people's music and made a quick beat.
Yeah.
5 months later, they got $1 million. Like,
So
what am I doing wrong?
So one thing that I remember seeing a video a while back of, and there's actually multiples on multiple occasions actually, but Ben Shapiro, he's like a political guy or whatever. He has made the statement numerous times. He's a classically trained violinist, and he's like this kind of talking head or whatever.
Right.
And anyhow, he's made the comment that rap isn't music, essentially, because it's only ever taking the beat and then saying words over it, which I think is kind of cringy. But I don't know if I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have the capability of doing the main riff from Gangster's Paradise?
Gangster's Paradise. Yeah, actually, I think I can. Gangster's Paradise. Most of life living in a gangster's paradise.
But the point is like there's more than just the beat, right? It's completely idiotic to say that about like any mainstream various music. Now, if it's experimental, then okay, you might have a point in some cases, but to make the I guess the statement of, oh, it's just a beat and somebody saying words over it is just kind of stupid. But sorry.
and that's the thing is that you know, and I for a long time have said, you know, it's one thing to come up with your own stuff, but if you, like you said, take a beat that's somebody else's and decide, hey, let's go ahead and make a song about this with the beat that has no relevance to anything, is completely stupid. Like Gangster Paradise, What's the other one?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Yeah. Forgot about Dre.
You know, and now they're just taking all that old stuff that actually meant something, and they're just revamping it, adding stupid stuff to it. It's like irrelevant.
Yeah.
You just want to quick buck.
They're not composing the piece necessarily for them to have lyrics over.
Oh no.
Yeah. I get what you're saying there.
And even they've taken older music and changed it.
Yeah.
Because every music that you hear past the 60s, 50s, 40s even is revamped music from the years or decades previous to now. And they've just added a beat or something like that to call it their own.
Right. So if someone said to you, I have 1 million friends on Facebook. If you do this job for me, I'll pay you an exposure. What would your response be to that?
I would first of all laugh in their face. You know, I haven't had 1 million subscribers or followers or anything like that, and that would be cool if I did. But if I was looking to make a quick buck or a few thousand subscribers or followers to do one little thing, I would have to really, really evaluate what the project was.
Yeah.
I would really have to evaluate, is it really worth it?
Sure.
Is my time, is my energy, is what I believe as a musician worthy enough to either say yes, and if it's not, am I the type of person, or do I have that type of self confidence or self the word I'm looking for, humility to say no?
Yeah.
Do I believe that there is something better that might come along, even if it's a few hundred or 1,000 followers that might later on get me millions? Do I want to sacrifice my integrity?
Sure.
Just for a few million followers to degrade myself?
Yeah.
I honestly could say I would not do it.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't think I'd do it either. So, what's your top most frustration of the music industry?
My top most frustration in the music industry right now is people who think they have talent, and people who think that they can rap, or people who think that they can make music and they use pre-made loops, pre-made beats that they bought off of somebody else or stole from somebody else.
Yeah.
And just to make a quick YouTube video.
Yeah.
To get 1,000 views in a day. Now, there's a artist called Neon Vine. Now, she uses like loops and things like that, but she creates all those herself from scratch.
Yeah.
But people and artists these days who use already pre-made music and pre-made beats and pre-made loops I understand, yes, I can get ideas from that. But if you use the original track or anything like that to make a beat and then try to sell it on YouTube or whatever to say, oh, look what I did, that's my biggest frustration. Or I've been watching videos here lately and I'm like, okay, this is old. This has already been done. Why are you trying to redo something that has already been done? And people get followed by that.
Oh, yeah.
or
Big
the
time.
stupidity. I'm like, what is going on with this world?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand though if you're somebody that doesn't do music on a regular basis, or engage in musical activities other than just watching music or listening to music. I mean, it's kind of hard to have that much of a criticism, like those people probably think that it's freaking amazing or whatever, and it's likely, if they don't listen to a broad range of music, they may not even know it's a cover. They might think it's
Right.
original.
And that's the funny thing is when I lived in New York City back in 2006, when I started working in Harlem, about a year after that, about 2007, 2008, one of my students was playing a song and they were like, "This is a new song. This is so awesome." I said, that's been done before." "No, it's not, Mr. Shawn. That's been done a long time ago. This is new." I said, I pulled up the original and I said, "This was done back in like 1960. They were like, "What?" I was like, wow. What's wrong with people?
So since we're talking about opinions, what's your opinion on YouTube?
My opinion on YouTube is it's a good platform when it first started.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about this today. It's a good platform when it first started. It was about the people. It was about people creating original content and uploading it and sharing it with the world.
Yeah.
But my problem with YouTube now, along with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all these other major social medias, is that the original creators who had the original idea of let's get non-scene artists and individuals and ordinary people out to the world, they sold out big time.
Yeah.
And now YouTube is all about, oh, let's see how many stupid videos we can make, or let's see what the algorithm is. So that way, if you don't have a video with this certain algorithm or this certain phrase in it, you're not going to get seen or heard. I'm all for YouTube and I will post a million videos, but at the same time, I think it's a disgrace to actual artists who spent their whole life trying to make it, just like AGT, who have spent their whole life trying to make it, and they don't make it because, oh, let's get somebody else who can twirl dogs or whatever. It's I don't get it. YouTube has changed so much that it's I don't even know if it's worth even being on half the time.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel in a lot of ways, but all of the social medias are, in general, just kind of not great. I mean, the golden age of the internet is gone. I mean, everything is monetized and has ad upon ad upon ad, and it's like a fucking just imagine though when we start seeing trying to remember the show. It was called Altered Carbon, and they essentially would walk around in this futuristic world. I mean, it was in the future, and they would make it. Of course, most people have implants and stuff, and they would make it so that advertisements would just pop up on your eyeballs, and it would be in your actual visual range, unless you had software to block those ads from essentially intruding into your software. Like, we're getting to that point right now. I mean, but it's not in our eyeballs, it's in our computer screens and on our phones, and I just really worry, the main driver for this is obviously making a buck. It's capitalism. It's just, and I think that if we have a way of appreciating art that goes beyond dollars and cents, then you can kind of get rid of a lot of this nuisance and these kind of bad practices, like bad business practices of essentially like putting bad advertisements in front of children and, like perfect example from a long time ago. This is, long since been changed, but like the candy cigarettes, for example.
Right.
And like there's variations of that today is like when I upload a YouTube video, it says, is this made for kids?
Right.
But there's still some pretty, like I've seen some of the kids videos, on kids YouTube, and it's like, wait a minute, that's something that you're showing kids? So I don't
It's
know.
crazy how desensitized kids have become,
Yeah.
and how desensitized the media, YouTube, the TV. I mean, the video games.
Yeah.
We were even talking about that. I was even talking about that to somebody today at work, and they were like, it's crazy how I even made a joke today. I said, back in the day, how we used to run credit cards? We used to have this
Yeah.
big ass machine that we put the credit card on a piece of paper and ka-choosh. They're like, really? I was like,
Yep.
yep.
So do you feel as though people treat you differently because you're a musician?
Absolutely.
Would you say that that's a negative or a positive?
Both. I believe that even after the years of traveling across the United States, I have seen both the negative and the positive of being a musician. I hope it's okay if I smoke.
Yeah, it's all right.
When I first started out, people saw me as, oh my gosh, he plays a piano. Yay, this is awesome. Why don't you be a performing monkey? And that's the way I felt for the longest time, for years and years and years. Because, people saw me as the musician, and I felt like I had an obligation to be the best musician I could be. People never saw me as a person. People always saw me as the person who played a piano really well and sang. And it hadn't been until a few years ago that, there was a point in my life that I actually stopped playing, because I got tired of people always seeing me or coming to me as, hey, I hear you play a piano. Do something for us. Like, really? There's more to me than just playing a piano.
It's like the age-old movie trope of, hey, you're a comedian, tell us a joke.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the way it was for the longest time. And, and that's why for the longest time, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it at first because I liked being the person that had more to offer than just being a person, because people have gifts, but people's gifts, differ from what my gift is. And I felt like somewhat that my gift was not as important as other people's gift. Like, what did I have to offer to people?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can play a piano, so what? But as time went on, once I stopped being just the performing monkey and actually showing people and telling people that there is actually a person behind the person that plays a piano, there's a human being, they started looking at me differently, which made it a lot easier to come out as a musician than just, and as a person, than just as, hi, my name's Shawn and I play a piano. You want to hear me? But yeah, definitely, I have been treated differently in the past. It was a good pay. I mean, I got paid for it.
Sure.
And, I got a lot of amazing things out of it. But I wish sometimes people would actually see me as a person than as a pianist that plays well.
Sure. Okay. So, I have the opinion that art is best realized when it's for art's sake, and we already talked about this a little bit, and not when it's used as a commodity cash cow to push profits. And my reason for this isn't to stifle art or to suggest that artists shouldn't be compensated for their work. It's to promote art that is presented as a genuine article of expression versus art that is presented to maximize profits. So, what is your opinion on how art should be expressed in society? You know, what makes art its best self, if you will?
Well, I think art makes its best self as not, first of all, looking to make money. If your idea of, oh, I'm an artist and I automatically demand profit, then you're going to fail miserably. You know, if you don't have a passion for what you do and you don't want to just do it because you love to do it,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You know, and as an artist, that's how not to gloat or brag, that's how I became who I am today. I was not looking to be the, most successful or the most well known or have $1 million right off the bat. Yeah, that would have been great. My dream was to be a concert pianist and make millions of dollars and live in a big mansion. But as the years went on, I learned that it's not about how much money you make, but whose life you touch and who you can benefit from and who can benefit from you for your music or your art.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's what changed my perspective. When I lived in New York City, every time I played the piano, I was making $300-$400 for 2 hours.
That's some good money, dude.
I was working a day job for about 6 hours, 5 hours. But on the weekends, I could play for 2 hours for 3 days and make more money than most people made in a month.
Yeah.
And that was great. But at the end of the day, you had to humble yourself and go, I'm doing this because I love to do music. And people have seen my music for what I do. And because I'm not in it for the money, I'm in it because this is what I love to do.
Yeah.
And once people get away from going, oh, I want to get a get rich quick scheme or a cash cow, that's when they'll truly thrive. And even to this day, I live in a small community now, in a very small town in Texas, where I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because I love to do my music. I love to produce. I love to make music. And I don't care if I make a dime, a nickel, $1,000, or $1 million. I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to be humble. I'm still going to do what I love to do, regardless of what I make.
Sure.
And I don't think that people should automatically go, ooh, this is what I can do. Let me go ahead and start trying to make some money. No.
Yeah. I mean, it's not likely unless you have a lot of money to invest up front, and then it's still not even guaranteed. But like it's just not likely that you're going to make money off of being an artist of any sort right away. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's it should, like you said, it should be a passion that you develop, and then through that development, everybody has, wide spectrum of how far they can go. And, through that development and passion for your own gain, that's why you're doing it. It like will come out, like there's a reason that And granted, some of these people have sold out, quote unquote. But the point is like, I can see why Christina Aguilera is a professional musician. Like, she is actually good, and she appears to have a pretty decent passion about it.
Right.
And it may not be music that I like, and she may not write her music or whatever at this point, but the point being is like, she does convey that emotion through the music that she's given, and because she's good, she's just somebody that should probably be paid a lot of money. Beyonce, as another female artist, hey, she's talented and good and should get paid good money for that,
Right. And that's the thing, is that, if you don't love what you do, and I know there's producers that aren't necessarily in the front line, that get people that look good and that could, let's record a studio album and we'll auto sync you, auto tune you, and then you just lip sing everything.
Friday, gonna get run on Friday.
We'll lip sync you, and we'll do an overdub track on the live set, and you just go up there and look pretty. Yeah, they can make a lot of money just for looking pretty, but at the end of the day, whenever you actually have to sing in front of people that are not canned or are there, they show their true colors.
Sure.
And that's what I don't. I don't care, because at the end of the day, I'm happy. I still love what I do. I might work at a convenience store right now, but at the end of the day, I come home, I make my music. I love what I do. I have some amazing people who follow me and care for me and things like that. So, I don't care if I'm a millionaire or barely known or whatever. At the end of the day, if you don't go to bed happy, then what are you doing it for?
Yeah. Yep. I hear that, man. So, I guess more specifically, so does creating art for the sake of profit, and I asked this question to Cody Weber, other than fundraising. So like in fundraising, if you make art for a profit, okay, I can get behind that. But anyway, in other ways, so like you're putting just money into some producer's pocket or some record company's pocket or whatever, do you think that negatively affects the industry? I mean, we've already talked about it, but just what are some ways do you think that makes it, I guess to rephrase the question, what ways do you think it negatively affects the industry?
I think a lot of the ways that affects the industry is, I've done a lot of research on this too over the years. A lot of the negativity ways that it affects have to be that artists do not get the appreciation that they deserve. I know it takes a lot of people to create an artist in the industry.
Yeah.
But here lately, with the virus or whatever, because I don't want to say it just in case you get, I think a lot of it has to do with, publicists, engineers, everything like that get paid way more than the artist. And now that this whole epidemic has happened, that they're not doing as near as much, and with pirating and things like that, they're not able to get as much profit off of what they used to, because anybody can steal music off the internet.
Yeah.
But for the sake of negativity profit in the industry, there's a lot of times where producers and so-called talent scouts and so-called I want to be a manager and things like that, they end up screwing over the artist who is actually doing 90% of the work, and the manager is doing 10% just to get them noticed, but the artist is actually in the studio working on the music, making the music. You know, they're not getting what they deserve.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, you know, I think artists need to really watch what they say and how they portray themselves in the public eye.
Yeah, like that, recently there was that country music guy that was saying some nasty slurs or whatever, and I was I was disheartened by the reaction to that, honestly.
Yeah.
Because there was kind of this, and I don't know, this is kind of a can of worms I don't know that I want to go down, but
yeah.
just to make the statement, you know, to finish out the thought, I was disheartened because, like you said, everybody, doesn't matter whether you're an artist or what, if you're a public figure, you have to consider what or how you're viewed out in the public. Otherwise, you risk damaging your brand.
Right.
Like, so for me, you know, my name, you know, I'm Jason Bergmeyer, and my brand, I have a brand, right? So like when I go to work as an electrical engineer, I'm doing the Jason Bergmeyer brand of electrical engineering. And then when I come home and I make a video, I'm doing the Jason Bergmeyer brand of video editing or whatever. And
right.
When you say stuff like that, it's just this culture, this backlash culture, this cancel culture is damaging because they see it as, oh, well, you're just trying to, you know, cancel him because he, you know, flubbed up on a word or whatever. And granted, the guy did apologize. And
right.
I don't know how people feel these days about apologies. That's a whole nother discussion in of itself. We're going to have another conversation. But but the thing that I'm trying to get at is it's sad that people had a backlash of, well, do you know what? We're just going to buy more of his stuff because of that. You know, if you want to go buy the guy's stuff because you like his music, that's one thing. But when he says something racist and then even apologizes himself because he knew it was racist, and people are just all like, yeah, we ain't going to let him be canceled, though, you know? It's kind of like, come on, guys, you're missing the point here. It's just the age we live in is something else.
You know, and that's the thing, is that everybody is so happy. Everybody, you know, is walking on eggshells because this is my opinion, and I've learned that the people who did not like the way the laws were back in the day after the 80s were the ones who became the politicians and the lawmakers and changed all the rules.
Yeah.
Because they weren't happy, because they were told no. And I think that's a lot of the issue, the problems with the way the world is now. You know, it's like, okay, everybody's walking on eggshells because they don't want to get sued, or they don't want to, you know, offend anybody because of what they said. I mean, I had a friend on Facebook just the other day. I spoke my 2 cents on a post that she made publicly, and she has not talked to me since, and that's been about 3 days now.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff happens.
I was like, whatever, you know, you don't like what I have to say, then don't make a public post.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. So like I've said that for years, is it's like, look, I'm not infringing on your rights or anything. This is a public forum, dude. And in fact, you are the one that clicked that friend request button, whether I don't really request a lot of friends these days, but I'm not saying that I'm against it or anything. It's just I've been cooped up in the house and haven't really met a lot of people. But the point that I'm trying to make is like they entered into this kind of social contract of, hey, we're in a public forum, and if you say stupid shit, people are gonna fucking, you know. And even if you don't say stupid stuff, like if you just say something that's your opinion, so I don't want to be mean, but like if you
That's
say
funny
it,
you say that. That's funny you say that because I said to somebody today that was at my job, I said, because they were talking to me, a lot of people talk to me. I work in a customer service area. So this person, I told this person, I said, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Yeah. And it's really the thing so like when I had that initial attitude, I guess, and hindsight's 2020, but all that essentially caused is that it further exacerbated the problem of people being in their own echo chambers, because then as soon as you start commenting on their stuff and they can't handle the cognitive dissonance, which I'm not saying that sarcastically, that literally is what it is. It's an uncomfortable feeling in your head when you're something that you believe is challenged is called cognitive dissonance, and they just can't handle it, and they say, well, I'm unfollowing this motherfucker, essentially.
And the bad thing is that the only reason I feel that they stop talking to you or they unfriend you or anything like that is because they know that you are right.
Yeah, I don't know that I would make that statement, but I mean, I don't want to assume that they know. I think that they're just not willing to have an open mind. A lot of people just have like a closed mind on certain subjects.
Right.
And they just are not willing. And hey, fair enough. I think that if somebody doesn't feel comfortable in conversation, then don't have it. And that's fine. Right. But once again, if you're in a public forum and you say something that is not true, that could have, we've already seen, how bad is it when you spread lies and it gets around? Pizzagate fucking happens, dude. Like where people try to go to a pizza place and shoot people because they think that it's some pedophile ring. That is what happens when people lie, and then the lie gets spread by a bunch of people that don't do research. And then next thing you know, there's a guy with an AR-15 trying to shoot up a pizza place. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, people very often think that, oh, well, it's my opinion or this and that. And it's like, yeah, that might be your opinion, but sorry, you're factually wrong. It's not like I'm going over here and trying to browbeat you because I disagree with your quote unquote opinion. It's just, you are literally saying something that's not true, and it can have bad consequences.
Right.
Next, shifting gears slightly here. Would you consider video games to be an art form?
I would. And it took me a long time to figure out it was. And the funny thing is that I honestly thought about doing that.
Yeah.
Because when, I wouldn't say my music career went flop, but when I took a long break from my music and composing and things like that, I honestly thought about going into gaming and making gaming a YouTube, after, and a lot of it was after seeing PewDiePie and other gamers and things like that. And that was kind of cool. I was like, that is pretty cool. I was like, who knew that somebody could just screen capture their video gaming and their reaction and make a lot of videos.
Yeah.
And get a lot of views. And I was like, oh my goodness, I could do this. Did I do it? No.
So the two main formulas for that is you have to either be really, really good at video games,
which I'm not,
or you have to be entertaining. And
I know.
Sometimes, oh, come on. But the point I'm trying to make is like, I think that YouTube, well, not just YouTube, the streaming community, and I don't know, like I don't like to throw shout outs to people that already have millions and millions and millions of subscribers, but about one of the game streamers that I think was kind of pushing things to kind of a way that I was excited about is like Dr. Disrespect. Because he had, yeah, you'll have to check him out sometime. There was this big fiasco where he, got banned from Twitch multiple times, but this time they said it was done after giving him we're talking, this guy scored like a many $1 million contract. I mean, the dude was making millions of dollars off of Twitch, and there was this big thing where he just randomly, we just had an overlay go over the screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
But anyhow, he went over and brought this, he brought his whole entire community over to YouTube. But the thing that I liked about his stream, and I don't really watch it that often because he plays essentially a character that's just extremely obnoxious. I mean, it's his shtick, and I get it. But at the same time, for me personally, I can't watch him for long periods of time because he's just kind of annoying. But the thing that I liked about his stream and the way it was set up is he would have these little virtual sets set up, and then he would make it so that it was almost interactive, even though all he was doing was essentially walking up in front of a green screen. There was all these things that were essentially going on, and like the atmosphere could be changed on on a snap. He would go over and probably, I'm just imagining how he did it, he'd be sitting at his desk and have a video on him, and that's how he's playing. And of course he has it all set up on his streaming platform that he uses, or whatever his little, however he streams. And then he'd just get up from his chair and then walk off to the right or left or whatever, and there'd be a green screen on the wall, and he would just have somebody switch over to that camera, and he'd walk up, and then he'd be in a locker room, and he's getting, all hyped up for the game or whatever, kind of bro type shit. But the point being is, it's like, you could take that so far. You could make it so where you go over and you open a door, and then you walk into some, who knows, like an alien fucking planet off into space, and you start floating around, like crazy amounts of things could be done. It could be literally like Monty Python. You walk at like the flying circus, where you walk outside and there's just a bunch of cartoon characters like poking and prodding at you, and all this interaction that could be put on screen. But anyway, that's a little bit different than video games as an art form. But I just remembered, about the streaming, and I was like, man, we need to see some really cool, innovative shit come out, because it's getting a little stale.
It is, and I really haven't watched a lot of video games here in the past and things like that, but it's all about what's that block game? Minecraft.
Yeah.
I don't even watch that anymore.
Well, we'll have to snag a cheap game sometime, game it out, and do a stream or something. I think that'd be fun.
Definitely. That'd be awesome.
There's a lot of pretty good co-op games out there that don't really take, a lot of gaming skill, and they're just inherently fun. Like there's one called Fall Guys, I think, where all you're doing is trying to get to the end of an obstacle course or whatever. With a bunch of people. There's like, I haven't played it, but I've seen streams of it. There's like 50 people, and they are these little squishy plush guys, and they're just like running, and there'd be like these different obstacles, and people can block you, and it's just looks like a blast. But we'll have to do something like that sometime, man. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Dude, that'd be awesome. We definitely gotta do that. And I remember you telling me we gotta do something.
For sure. But that is all I have. So is there anything else, or any final closing statements that you want to make?
Well, I really appreciate this opportunity, and you thinking of me for this amazing interview. And definitely, check out the Smoogley, and he's an amazing musician and artist, and definitely, you know, follow your dream, because it if you put in hard work and not give up, definitely you can get what you want.
Heck yeah, man. Well, thank
I
you.
mean, I've been here a year and a half in this little small town from New York City with nothing but a duffel bag, and a year and a half later, I've definitely upgraded from a duffel bag.
Heck yeah, man. I've been enjoying watching the progress, dude. That's really cool.
I appreciate it, man. And if any of y'all, want to follow me or add me as a friend or have any music requests or anything like that, definitely let me know. I can do hip hop, R&B, jazz, classical. I do a lot of cover songs. So if you want any cover music done, let me know.
Yeah, I'll put your information in the description of the video, and yeah, it's been awesome talking to you, but I'm going to switch to the audience real quick. So
right.
if this is content that you like, please hit that subscribe button if you're watching me on YouTube. If you're watching me on Facebook, please like and share. And also like my page, The Smoogley. But I really appreciate you guys watching. This has been really cool doing this podcast thing, and I'll catch you on the next one.